Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. The rush to deliver supplies to Ebola-hit areas of the eastern DRC continues as the World Health Organization continues to monitor its spread. And in Egypt, the first phase of the world's longest monorail network is inaugurated in Cairo. This is Africa Live. A warm welcome to the program. I am Peninah Karibe. Joining me with the business headlines tonight is Uche.
Thank you, Peninah. And here is a look at what's coming up on Africa Live Bits. South Africa's power utility, Eskom, threatens to disconnect a supply to Johannesburg. And Iran's stock market reopens after months of disruptions due to its war with Israel and the US. Of course, all of that coming up within the program, but for now it is back to you.
Thank you, Uche. We'll begin in Beijing, where Russian President Vladimir Putin has departed China, ending a state visit to the country. Earlier, Chinese President Xi Jinping held a welcome ceremony for Putin.
The ceremony was held outside the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing. Senior Chinese and Russian officials also attended the ceremony. A military band played the national anthems of Russia and China, and a 21-gun salute was fired. Putin, accompanied by Xi Jinping, revealed the honor guard of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. The two heads of state then returned to the reviewing stand to watch the honor guards march past. Afterwards, a marching military band gave a performance. This is President Putin's 25th visit to China.
The two leaders held talks at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing and agreed to extend what's called the China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation.
Chinese President Xi Jinping noted that this year marks the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the China-Russia Strategic Partnership of Coordination and the 25th anniversary of the signing of the China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation. He said China-Russia relations have come this far because the two countries have kept deepening political mutual trust and strategic coordination with unyielding tenacity, expanded cooperation with a drive to always scale new heights, defended international justice and fairness, and advanced the building of a community with a shared future for humanity with unflappable resolve. President Xi said as permanent UN security members and important major countries, China and Russia should take a strategic and long-term perspective, drive the development and revitalization of their respective countries through comprehensive strategic coordination of even higher quality, and work to make the global governance system more just and reasonable. He said China and Russia have developed the comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination for a new era on the basis of equality, mutual respect, good faith, and win-win cooperation. He added that political mutual trust has further deepened cooperation in various areas such as trade and economy, investment, energy, science and technology, people-to-people, and subnational exchanges continue to advance, and the bonds between the two peoples have grown stronger. He said the China-Russia relationship has entered a new stage of greater achievements and faster development. President Xi said unswervingly promoting the long-term, sound, steady, and high-quality development of the China-Russia relationship is a strategic choice by the two sides based on the fundamental interests of the two countries and global trends. He called on China and Russia to fully implement the important common understandings reached by him and Putin, seize the historic opportunities, and further promote the mutual trust, cooperation, and friendship of the two countries. President Xi noted that both sides should align their efforts with the goals of national development and revitalization, fully leverage their comprehensive cooperation mechanisms, and strengthen the overall planning and design of all-round collaboration. He said the two sides should work to upgrade pragmatic cooperation in various areas while actively exploring cooperation in frontier fields to forge new growth engines through new quality productive forces. He emphasized the need to build on the long-standing friendship between the two nations by strengthening people-to-people exchanges in order to consolidate the social foundation of their bilateral friendship. He also called for deeper multilateral coordination, further enhancing synergy and collaboration within multilateral platforms such as the United Nations, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS, and APEC. He said both sides should firmly uphold the post-war international order and the authority of the international law, unite the global south, and steer global governance system reform in the right direction. Russian President Vladimir Putin said bilateral relationship has reached an unprecedented level of excellence, with frequent high-level exchanges and solid political mutual trust, thanks to the joint efforts of both sides. He said bilateral trade is growing steadily, energy supply and demand have achieved mutual benefit, and cooperation in transportation, logistics, and science and technology is deepening. He said people-to-people and cultural exchanges are maintaining strong momentum. Following the successful conclusion of the Russia-China Years of Culture, the Russia-China Years of Education are about to commence. Having withstood various tests, Putin said bilateral relationship has grown stronger over time and has become a model of comprehensive strategic coordination. Putin said the Treaty on Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation has laid a solid legal foundation for the bilateral relationship, which holds even greater practical significance in the current context. He expressed his readiness to work with China to abide by the spirit of the treaty, enhance strategic coordination and pragmatic cooperation, and elevate the bilateral relationship to new heights. He noted that bilateral cooperation serves as a vital stabilizing factor amidst a volatile international landscape. Putin expressed Russia's willingness to continue strengthening multilateral coordination with China to promote a more just and equitable international order. The two heads of state exchanged views on major international and regional issues, including the situation in the Middle East. After their talks, President Xi and President Putin signed a joint statement on further enhancing the comprehensive strategic coordination and deepening good neighborliness and friendly cooperation between the two countries. They witnessed the signing of 20 cooperation documents in areas such as economic and trade affairs, education, and science and technology. During the visit, the two sides also issued a joint statement on promoting a multipolar world and a new type of international relations, and reached 20 cooperation documents in other fields.
The leaders also met the press in Beijing, where they hailed a new high in China-Russia relations.
President Xi Jinping said President Putin's 25th visit to China demonstrated the special nature of China-Russia relations. Xi said the China-Russia relationship has reached the highest level in history, a comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination for the new era, setting an example for major country relations. He stressed that the two nations should follow the trend of the times: peace, development, and win-win cooperation. He also raised 4 points. First, building higher quality political mutual trust and firm strategic support. President Xi said political mutual trust is the most distinctive feature of the relationship between Beijing and Moscow, as well as the fundamental principle of the China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation. Xi said the two sides should build on their past achievements, further supporting each other on issues concerning core interests and major concerns, and maintaining close strategic communication and exchanges at all levels. Second, upgrading mutually beneficial cooperation to advance development and revitalization. President Xi said in recent years the two countries have witnessed expanded cooperation across various sectors. Bilateral trade has exceeded $200 billion for 3 consecutive years. And in the first 4 months of 2026, bilateral trade increased by nearly 20%. Xi said the two sides should further deepen the synergy between China's 15th five-year plan and Russia's development strategy until 2030. Third, promoting people-to-people ties and consolidating the friendship between the two countries. President Xi said the two sides should take the China-Russia years of education as an opportunity to expand student exchanges, deepen institutional cooperation in areas such as talent cultivation and joint scientific research. Fourth, enhancing international coordination and working to reform and improve global governance. President Xi said unilateralism and hegemonism are posing severe dangers today, and there is a risk of the world regressing to the law of the jungle. He said that as permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and Russia must firmly fulfill their mission and responsibility as major responsible countries, uphold the authority of the United Nations and international justice, and oppose all acts of unilateral bullying. Xi emphasized that the two countries must oppose all provocative acts that negate the outcomes of the victory in World War II and attempt to resurrect fascism and militarism. Xi said the two sides should work together to build a more just and equitable global governance system. President Putin echoed President Xi, saying Russia-China relations are at a level never seen before. Putin said the two countries have always embraced the spirit of mutual respect, equality, mutual assistance, and mutual support. Their bilateral cooperation is not directed against any third party, nor is it affected by geopolitical changes. Putin said Russia is fully confident in the future of bilateral relations and will work with China to deepen good neighborliness, strengthen people-to-people ties, and help boost each other's development and well-being. Putin said that Russia and China will maintain close strategic coordination on the international stage, jointly uphold the principles of the UN Charter, and work together to maintain global security and stability.
The two leaders also attended the opening ceremony of the China-Russia Years of Education. Both called for deeper cooperation and stronger people-to-people exchanges in the sector.
Marking a new step in educational cooperation, China and Russia launched the China-Russia Years of Education on Wednesday, with the two heads of state attending the opening ceremony in Beijing. In his address, President Xi said this year marks the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the China-Russia Strategic Partnership Coordination and the 25th anniversary of the signing of the China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation. He said launching the China-Russia Years of Education in such a significant year reflects the two leaders' strategic vision for the long-term development of bilateral ties. Describing education as an important bridge connecting peoples and carrying forward friendship between nations, she said educational cooperation between China and Russia has continued to deepen, delivering tangible results and enriching bilateral relations in the new era. He called on both sides to strengthen cooperation in talent cultivation, jointly foster top scientific and technological talent, and work together on cutting-edge scientific challenges to support innovation-driven development in both countries. Xi also urged the two sides to promote mutual learning between civilizations, expand exchanges on cultural heritage and education governance, and encourage closer ties among young people to carry forward the traditional friendship between China and Russia. Putin said educational cooperation is an indispensable part of the Russia-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination, adding that the launch of the Russia-China Years of Education marks a major milestone. He said Russia is willing to work with China to deepen educational cooperation, enhance mutual understanding among younger generations, and promote the further development of bilateral relations. The two leaders also jointly unveiled the logo for the China-Russia Years of Education.
The leaders also attended a photo exhibition at the Great Hall of the People. The photo exhibition, jointly organized by Xinhua News Agency and Russia's TASS News Agency, presented exchanges between the two heads of state and the progress made in China-Russia good neighborliness and friendly cooperation. The two leaders took time to study the many exhibits and noted that the enduring cause of the China-Russia friendship followed the historical tide and would continue to move forward steadily with new achievements. The leaders also had a chat over some tea at the Great Hall of the People. President Xi said that he and President Putin had maintained frequent exchanges, jointly guiding the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination for the new era towards sustained progress. He said they had promoted greater public support for good neighborliness and friendship between the two countries and pioneered a new model of major country relations featuring mutual respect, fairness and justice, and win-win cooperation, injecting stability into a world of turmoil and transformation. She added that he and Putin had reached a new important consensus on advancing the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination. President Xi said that with joint efforts from both sides, bilateral ties could maintain high-quality development and scale new heights. President Putin called his visit pragmatic, efficient and fruitful. He added that he and President Xi have reviewed the development of Russia-China relations, exchanged in-depth views on a wide range of issues, and charted the next stage of bilateral cooperation. Putin said Russia looked forward to maintaining close communication with China, strengthening strategic coordination and contributing to world peace and prosperity via the certainty and stability of Russia-China relations. It's 20 minutes past the hour. This is Africa Live. We're taking a short break. Coming up, we'll have the latest on the deadly Ebola outbreak in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo.
Nigeria is my home. Over 200 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Onto our coverage of the Ebola outbreak in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which continues to cause devastation. The World Health Organization confirmed on Wednesday that 600 suspected cases and 139 suspected deaths. It added that these numbers are expected to rise in the coming days for various reasons. Health experts believe the outbreak may have started months ago. They're linking it to the converging of people at either a funeral or a health center. Meanwhile, a WHO emergency committee met in Geneva, Switzerland on Tuesday. They confirmed the outbreak, a rare Bundibugyo strain of the virus, was a public health emergency of international concern, but not a pandemic emergency.
As soon as WHO was aware of the signal, support was provided to DRC to investigate as quickly as possible. And this ended up with a confirmation late last week. Investigations are ongoing to ascertain when and where exactly this outbreak started. Given the scale, we are thinking that it has started probably a couple of months ago, but investigations are ongoing, and our priority is really to cut the transmission chain by implementing contact tracing, isolating, and caring for all suspect and confirmed cases.
The head of Africa's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said 3 experimental vaccines are being tested. Experts are also pointing out that climate change may be driving the spread.
There's
the first vaccine, as we mentioned, the Mark-Evebo vaccine. That's the one we are focusing on the most, though there are a few specific aspects we are currently studying. The second is the UK Chadox-1 vaccine, and the third is what is known as the VSV-BDBV vaccine, which comes from Texas. These are the 3 vaccines we are currently working on.
Climate change, if we just consider global warming, promotes the proliferation of insects that can carry viruses. For example, birds. I believe they reproduce much more quickly in warmer conditions.
Meanwhile, scores of health workers are undergoing quarantine in Uganda after 1 fatality and 2 cases of Ebola were confirmed in the East African country. Uganda is a neighbor of the Eastern DRC. Authorities have suspended non-essential public gatherings as health workers brace to contain the fast spreading virus. Isabel Nakiria has more.
Medical staff in Kampala have intensified the tracing of more people who may have come in contact with the confirmed cases. Both had arrived in the Ugandan capital from the DRC. 1 patient is being managed at the Mulago National Referral Hospital, and more than 100 other people are under quarantine. The Ministry of Health has not disclosed the patient's condition, but says the situation is under control. Uganda has temporarily closed its border with the DRC in the Kanungo district to avoid further transmission.
The Ministry of Health liaising with health authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and of course sister ministries like the Ministry of Internal Affairs, is conducting an ongoing assessment of the situation and taking measures that are necessary to contain the possibility of a spread. And these measures will include many things. Screening, for example, at border points. But if there is a situation that warrants a temporary measure, like a temporary suspension of a border post, the Ministry of Health, working with other authorities, including partners on the other side of the border, will make that decision.
Now, the public has also been advised to avoid large gatherings such as funerals, weddings, and church services. It's now mandatory for organizers to seek authorization from the district health officials to ensure proper hygiene and safe distancing is maintained. People who develop any signs or symptoms of Ebola must seek medical help immediately. Now, meanwhile, the U.S. government has advised its citizens in Uganda against non-essential travel to Western regions and to healthcare facilities. The new directives are warnings by the World Health Organization about the speed at which the virus is spreading. In an update on Wednesday, the WHO said there have now been at least 600 suspected cases of Ebola and 139 suspected deaths from the disease, with numbers expected to rise further. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
And neighboring Rwanda has also taken measures to protect its population. It closed border crossings linking Goma in the DRC to Gisenyi, the second largest city in Rwanda's western province. Local officials say the closure is part of containment measures and will remain in place until further notice. Since the move has affected cross-border trade, many are hoping the outbreak is contained quickly.
Initially, traders from Goma used to come and buy from us and we would earn money. But now the situation is bad. They are no longer coming because the border is closed and we are suffering losses.
We would like the government to find a solution so that we can transport our goods normally across the border while still taking precautions as we wait for this pandemic to end.
At the moment, things have changed. We now take our goods to the border and leave them there, and people on the other side transport them for us. This is causing us losses because we are forced to share the money we earn, which reduces our profits. We hope that this situation is resolved soon so that we can continue working as we used to before.
Meanwhile, the Congolese national football team has cancelled a 3-day World Cup preparation camp over the Ebola outbreak. Officials have also called off a planned farewell to fans in the capital, Kinshasa. The Leopards have qualified for a World Cup for the first time in over 50 years and are in a group with Uzbekistan, Colombia and Portugal. All of these could play their club football outside the country, so there is no danger in any of them missing out on the tournament. The squad will make alternative arrangements for the warm-up period. They are due to play Belgium, Spain and the United States ahead of their opening game against Portugal on June 17th. Sierra Leone has received 9 deportees expelled from the U.S., becoming the latest African country to receive immigrants from the U.S. The country's foreign minister said they landed on Wednesday morning after initially saying 25 migrants would arrive. The deportees are natives of neighboring Nigeria, Ghana and Guinea. Some hold Sierra Leonean residence permits. They will have the right to stay in the country for 90 days before they must return to their countries of origin. Authorities in Freetown have agreed to accept up to 300 deportees a year, but only from members of the economic community of West African states. Foreign Minister Musa Kaba said the U.S. was providing $1.5 million to cover humanitarian and operational costs. Other African countries to have received U.S. deportees include Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eswatini, Ghana, Rwanda and South Sudan. This month, Egypt inaugurated the world's largest monorail network. The 96-kilometer project connects the furthest stretches of Cairo to the new administrative capital. At full capacity, it will be able to move 500,000 commuters daily. Adel Mahroui brings us that story in Cairo.
To celebrate the inauguration of Egypt's first monorail project, Cairo gave its residents a free 3-day pass. Many took their children along for the ride.
I wanted my grandchildren to see it. My daughter is coming from Dubai. She also wants to see the latest in Egypt. For sure, it's beautiful, and I hope Egypt will excel even more. Seeing the new capital by this train was great. I see the progress. It is more crowded than before.
With its unique entrance through the gates of the new capital and view of the central business district, the project has a potential of becoming a major touristic attraction, where commuters get to enjoy the Chinese-built iconic tower, the tallest building in Africa.
I've been following its construction over the years. I saw Egypt during President Hosni Mubarak and during Morsi. But now I see great development and stability. I also see Egypt welcoming people from all over the world, from Africa, the East. Honestly, the phrase Egypt is the mother of the world is something I can relate to.
It took 5 years to build a monorail with an estimated total budget of $4.5 billion.
We are proud that we work on national projects that have a lasting impact. Each one of us is proud when we talk with our families or friends, and in the future, I will tell my kids that I participated in this project.
Currently, the trains only have 4 carts, but at full capacity, each train will have 8, pushing the project to 500,000 commuters daily.
Currently, about 2/3 of the East Monorail line is operable. That covers the entire new administrative capital and the new Cairo areas. The final part that will connect this eastern extension to the capital, Cairo, will come into operation within the next 2 months. The second part of the project west of the Egyptian capital will come into operation next year and will be connected to the eastern line through the Cairo underground metro network. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
And now to Kinshasa, where environmentalists are calling on the government to do more to protect the massive Congo River that flows through the heart of the city. Plastic waste has become so prevalent in the waterway that fishermen have turned to collecting garbage for recycling rather than trying to net a major catch. Kinshasa is one of Africa's biggest cities with extremely low standards of living due to hyper-accelerated urban growth. Activists say until the government resolves this problem, the city's residents will suffer. CGTN's Caroline B with more.
Fishermen on the Congo River in the Democratic Republic of Congo returning to harbour after spending hours at work. Their nets should be full of catch, but in most cases they have nothing but waste. The river runs through the capital, Kinshasa, with a population of more than 17 million people. Fishermen here blame their activity for their current dwindling fishing fortunes.
Back then, there really were a lot of fish. In a single day, I could catch 70 big fish, but now it's either just one fish or nothing at all. Here in the city centre, all the fish have already fled because of the rubbish like disposable nappies, jerry cans and so on.
Piles of plastic waste are evidence of the fishermen's frustrations. Yet, they've come to see that such a haul isn't a total loss. In this day and age, with sustainability such a big part of everyday life, even waste has a value.
Since catching fish on this river has become very complicated, I have started fishing for plastic. Yesterday I sold plastic for about $30 and sometimes I even sell up to $44.
All of this comes from the river, all of it. It comes from the streets in the districts of Kinshasa, and when it rains, all the plastic is carried down to the river and we collect it. We store it and then we wait to sell it.
However, whilst the fishermen are earning a much-needed income, there is also an important environmental impact. A 2023 study by the University of Kinshasa indicated that plastic waste exposed to sunlight breaks down into microplastics. Once ingested by fish, it affects growth and reproduction, leading to death in some instances. Environmentalists see this as a time bomb.
In the DRC, we have a visible war in the east, but there is also this invisible war that we don't perceive directly, yet it is destroying our environment, destroying our land. Back then, I remember the soil was fertile, but today the land is increasingly polluted with plastics.
In 2017, the DRC passed a law banning the manufacture and import of plastic bags and bottles, but the regulation remains largely ignored. This is evident in the amount of plastic waste that ends up in the massive Congo River, causing all kinds of problems. Experts say it needs a more sustainable solution than relying on fishermen to clean it up. Caroline B, CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live. Time for us now to shift gears and focus on business news, which is here with the latest.
Thank you, Peninah. And here's a look at what's coming up on Africa Live Biz. South Africa's power utility Eskom threatens to disconnect supply to Johannesburg. And Iran's stock market reopens after months of disruptions due to its war with Israel and the US. Well, let's start off in South Africa. Power supply in the country's biggest city and economic hub, Johannesburg, could now be disconnected by the state-owned electricity company, Eskom, and that's over unpaid debts. Now, Eskom said in a statement that the city of Johannesburg and its power utility, City Power, currently owes about $315 million. Now, a further $95 million is still due in June. Well, the utility said it had worked with the Johannesburg Metropolitan Municipality for more than 2 years now over these unpaid debts, but the city had repeatedly defaulted. Johannesburg's financial woes have been in the spotlight recently after the National Treasury raised, in quotes, serious concerns over the state of its finances. Well, let's move on now. In Africa, despite the immense potential of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, many entrepreneurs say that they're still struggling to access intra-African markets. Now, they cite a lack of expertise in tendering, also compliance standards and regional market entry strategies. But yet, reports suggest that intra-African trade is currently experiencing some fresh momentum, and it is expected to reach record highs in 2026. Take a look.
200 kilometers north of Lome is where a remarkable story begins, about a woman, a bar of chocolate, and an ambition that transcends borders. Belak Podzro is one of the 35 women entrepreneurs supported by the UNDP as part of an acceleration program linked to the African Continental Free Trade Area.
I am one of the 35 women supported by the UNDP under the AFCFTA project. We received extensive training. It was a real adventure that propelled us forward and opened up opportunities we are seizing today. When we discovered the AFCFTA, we felt truly relieved. We no longer have to rely solely on the national markets. We can now count on the whole of Africa.
Across the continent, inter-African trade currently accounts for only 15% of total exports, a tiny figure compared to the 60% recorded within the European Union. But driven by the progressive elimination of customs duties on nearly 90% of goods, the AFCFTA is unlocking a single market of 1.3 billion consumers and a combined GDP exceeding $3.4 trillion. And the Biashara Afrika gathering this year seeks to enhance and expand this trading integration.
I would like to recall that Biashara Afrika is a forum dedicated to trade and investment in Africa, organized as part of the acceleration of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It serves as a platform for dialogue between the African public and private sectors, multinationals and key economic players to stimulate intra-African trade and continental development.
For the AFCFTA Secretariat, the mechanics of the free trade cannot work without its ground-level actors. SMEs, women-owned businesses and young entrepreneurs are said to be the true engines of inter-African trade.
Governments create the enabling environment, but it is a business that makes trade happen. That is why the AFCFTA Secretariat continues to support the development of the private sector, particularly SMEs, women-owned enterprises and youth businesses. Biashara Afrika, the Africa Dialogue, Africa Trading Companies, the Intra-African Trade Fair and other targeted support initiatives are the tools we use with our partners to increase intra-African trade.
Biashara Afrika 2026 presents a critical test of Africa's ability to trade with itself. For Togo's political leadership, this forum must be a platform for solutions, not just passionate speeches.
This third edition of Biashara Afrika comes at a crucial time for our continent. Your presence testifies to a shared conviction that Africa economic integration is no longer a distant aspiration. It has become a historical necessity. This event has no room for passion alone. It must be a platform for solutions and partnerships.
In the aisles of the Togo village, artisans, creators and processors display their work. Their products, fabrics, leather goods and handmade crafts tell the story of local know-how, now seeking to shine far beyond national borders.
We have come, and there are 53 countries present. Perhaps one of these countries might need our raw material or our semi-finished product to use. So, we are here for exchanges, to build relationships, markets and business opportunities.
The agreements exist, the markets are opening up. What remains is the conviction and political goodwill, and Africa will surely be able to harness the vast opportunities and business fortunes within its resource-rich frontiers. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
Well, let's head to South Sudan now. The country has launched a Chinese-built air traffic management system, and officials there say it marks the first time the country has been able to manage its own airspace since its independence in 2011. CGTN's Patrick Oyet has more on that.
South Sudan's government says its airspace was previously managed from Khartoum. However, when war broke out in Sudan, Juba requested Chad to manage its airspace. Authorities here say that arrangement is coming to an end now.
We have reclaimed over sovereignty by taking control of our airspace. From today onwards, our airspace is in our hands.
The facility was built by China Harbour Engineering Company. The project was financed with a concessional loan of $200 million from China. The management system covers both upper and lower airspace above 6,000. The new system is equipped with advanced radar technology, automated flight data processing, and upgraded communication networks.
Looking ahead, we expect to take this project as a new starting point, work with South Sudanese partners to continuously expand and deepen practical cooperation in various fields such as energy and mineral development, agricultural production, infrastructure, capacity building, technology transfer, and jointly write a new chapter of win-win cooperation between China and South Sudan.
Due to the changes, airlines are now being advised to coordinate schedule updates directly with the South Sudan Civil Aviation Authority. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Let's turn to international news now. And Iran's stock market has reopened after months of disruptions, of course, since the start of that war. Well, authorities there say the prolonged closure was intended to preserve market stability and also prevent a panic across its financial system. Sefer Saremi reports from Tehran.
Trading resumed at the Tehran Stock Exchange at 9 a.m. on May 19th, marking the beginning of the new Iranian financial year. The market had remained closed for 80 days, leaving investors unable to access their funds during a period of heightened economic uncertainty and volatility.
Overall, market stocks can be categorized into three groups. Some companies have suffered damage or challenges in supply, and they won't open or be available for trading until these issues are resolved. Another group includes companies whose production costs have risen faster than their revenues, which would cause a decline in their value. Finally, certain sectors, such as cement and banking, are expected to show positive performance.
However, not all companies have resumed trading. More than 40 listed firms, mainly in the chemicals and metals sectors, remain suspended due to damage linked to the conflict. Still, some market participants remain optimistic, including the CEO of Arvin Investment Management.
Fortunately, the market's performance today, the first trading day after the war, exceeded my expectations. We did not see heavy sell-offs. Instead, there was a positive trend and purchase orders across many sectors. Even in the first hour, the balance between buyers and sellers was roughly equal.
For many investors, the shutdown meant their money was effectively frozen during a period of heightened inflation and uncertainty.
For me, the stock market was a way to protect the value of my money against inflation. But the shutdown blocked access to my investment, and that liquidity is very important. We also didn't know when the market would reopen, and that uncertainty was worrying.
The reopening is being closely monitored as a key sign of stability following weeks of disruption and uncertainty. But with several sectors still offline and economic pressures continuing to mount, investor confidence is likely to face further tests in the days ahead. Seper Sadami, CGTN, Tehran.
Well, that is all for now on Africa Live Biz, but ahead on Global Business Africa, we'll be visiting Togo, where African policymakers and entrepreneurs are exploring ways of boosting intra-Africa trade, which of course is projected to reach $230 billion by the year 2027. Of course, all of that coming up at the top of the hour. For now, it is back to you, Penny.
Thank you, Uche. This is Africa Live. Coming up in sports. Arsenal's Premier League title win brings joy and celebration to an African continent packed with Ghana's fans.